everybody, and welcome to another episode of Story Behind the Collector. I'm Will Sellenrod from Collector Chassis, and today we have a very special guest, someone who I've known for the past year, Glenn Bernstein, and he's going to walk us through his garage and his exciting collection. I think you're going to really enjoy it. So Glenn, would you like to come in here? Great to see you. Great to see you. And Glenn, I know that you've got quite a number of cars here. I don't know what the count is. I don't know if you even want to say how many you have.
We've got a few.
Yeah. So we're excited to go take a look. And with that, I guess we'll open the garage door. Okay. You've got a couple cars out here. Anything you want to say specifically about these cars here before we go inside?
Well, we've got a 2015 Porsche Turbo S. A really great build, has just about every option you can think of. If you like yellow, it's very yellow, inside and out. And next to that is a 2012 Garage Volante. Aston Martin made that car for about a year and a half. And I think there were about 350 or 400 made. Maybe 200 of those made it to the United States, and about 150 of those, I think, are convertibles. Kind of a unique car.
Yeah, and I mean, how bright is this, folks? Is this just not a car that gets your attention? It's kind of hard to go anywhere without
hard
getting
to hide.
with this.
They call that highlighter yellow. It's actually speed yellow, but they call it highlighter yellow.
And then you have the speed yellow theme inside.
Yeah.
Can we open the door and take a look? If you want to bring the camera around here, and look how gorgeous that is inside there.
Yeah, it's
the black and
about 11,000 miles, and I'm the second owner. I bought it from the original owner in Monterey, California, and it's got the two-tone seats and a lot of contrast stitching, so it's a cool car, and it's very fast. 0 to 60 in about 2.8.
Oh, that's great.
It's a quick car.
And then you have the sunroof on it too.
Yep, it's got the retractable sunroof.
And you have a convertible over there. So do you have a preference between hardtop or convertible?
Depends on the day. This morning I prefer the hardtop. Right now I like the convertible. We got a little rain this morning.
So I love this garage. I love the color, and of course Aston Martin's always been famous for their leather interiors. So I'm anxious to see what the inside of this looks like.
Yeah, this is a 2012 Garage Volante. Volante meaning the convertible version. Aston Martin made this car in the 90s and then discontinued it and decided to try to pick it up again in 2012. I think they made the car for about a year and a half and then felt that the car was too close to DB9 and the other version of I'm not sure what model it was, but this car kind of fell in between. It was very similar to both, so they stopped production. They produced about 400. I think there were about 200 convertibles, Volantes made. And I think that there's maybe half or 150 so that came to the United States. I don't think there's many in this color combination. It's a very white interior with the blue. And
can I open the door?
Yeah, sure. And the wood is just beautiful on this.
Oh yeah.
So it's probably one of a handful of cars in this combination.
And the Connolly leather, when you open the door, and
smell it.
Oh, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, and it's 10 years old at this point.
It sure doesn't seem like it.
The uniqueness, I think, of the ride in this car versus some of the other cars I have, and I haven't had an Aston before, is the acceleration is very linear. Like, you don't really feel the transmission kicking in.
Okay.
It's almost driving an electric car. I mean, it's very smooth the way it accelerates.
And this is, I have to say, one of my favorite cars, Glenn.
You've driven this one.
I did, and it stays with me to this day. I every so often will pull out that little video and look at it. It was a great memory for me. I really appreciate that opportunity. So let's learn a little bit more about this car, because to me it's very special.
Yeah, well, it's the 930. It's in 1986 turbo, and all original engine, drivetrain. It's got about 300 horsepower, 288, I think, something like that. It's pretty quick. Not quick for today's standards, but it's for this vintage, it was a pretty fast car. And it's in really nice shape. It did have one repaint, but it's very clean. It's got a deep burgundy interior. It's a 4-speed.
Yeah. Come on around here and take a picture of this interior. It's beautiful inside. And you got to have a 4-speed in a car like this, right? I mean, the only way to really enjoy it.
You can literally drive this car all day in third gear. You never even have to get the fourth.
Wow.
It really moves.
And it starts right up every single time.
Starts right up, and the gear shift is like totally smooth. It's almost like the car's intuitive. It'll just pop itself into gear. And I've always loved the turbo. This vintage turbo is a car that I always really, sort of on the road, love to have one of those, and that was sort of the motivation.
Styling is just timeless. I love these wide rear fenders here, and the way the wheels fit, the way the car sits.
Yeah, I really like the white fruits here. You can get them in black, you can get them different colors. I think the white looks pretty cool.
Yeah. And it just has such a nice feel when you're driving it on the road. I mean, it's so responsive. The steering is probably a little more responsive than the Mustang.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. And the next one we have is this, a beautiful 911 here. Glenn, let's tell us a little bit more about this car. This is a really beautiful color.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, light metallic blue, ice blue metallic, and like the turbo, it's an earlier version of the 930, slightly less horsepower and smaller engine than the turbo. But this is a 911 SC, and it's an 81. It's got about 50 some odd thousand miles on it, and I love the color, and I love the color combination. The interior is Porsche's Cork interior, and it's in amazing condition. And this car is slightly different than the turbo in terms of drivability. You feel almost even more connected to the road in this car than you do with the turbo. You really feel, maybe it's the line of sight over the windscreen, I'm not exactly sure, but you just feel like you're really connected to the road. And it's a 5-speed. It's got decent pep, and it's a nice, really smooth ride.
Yeah, it's the color combination is beautiful. And is it all original?
This is all original. There was a little bit of repaint on the engine hood because I guess someone had repainted it. Maybe I bought it from a dealer in Naples, and it had been painted before I got it. Okay. And the color was just not. It was just off a little bit. So I had it repainted about a year and a half ago to really match the rest of the car, and I think it does. The hood could probably use a repaint that's original, so I really don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, the interior is spotless. Sometimes when you open the car door on an older car, it has kind of a musty smell. This car smells brand new. Actually, I mean, this interior is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So this is the obviously a 289, correct?
Correct. 289 with the 3-speed automatic transmission. A lot of original stuff in here. The braces were added, but I think that was a common adaptation.
Yeah, it looks factory the way it fits in.
It adds some rigidity to the chassis, and it runs really great. It's got a little bit of pickup to it. It doesn't have too many leaks, as most cars of this vintage will seep a little bit. This one hasn't yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's beautiful, nice and clean in there too.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like this car really had an extensive restoration done.
Yeah, this was from the frame up. Everything was done on this car.
Yeah, and these are always a nice touch.
The other fog lights.
Yeah. So I had the privilege of visiting Glenn and his wife Molly in this garage and looking at his collection. This is a new car. I've not seen this one before. I love that Porsche Turbo, as I mentioned earlier, but this car has really got my attention, Glenn. I mean, this car looks beautifully done. Is this a rotisserie restoration?
This was a rotisserie restoration, but almost 20 years ago. This is a 1961 190 SL. I bought it from a collector in Gainesville, Florida, and he had just one beautiful car after another. This was one of them, and it was fully restored, all authentic Mercedes parts. Everything on it is, what would be period correct for this car. And we can take a look at the engine. Even the engine looks great. I've got a hardtop port, which is sitting over here. That needs a little work, but the soft top is great.
A lot of times a camera can hide imperfections in a car. But I can tell you from staring at this car, personally, this car has no imperfections. I mean, the paint is super smooth. This paint job is absolutely stunning on this car. Wow.
Old school, I have to put the arm on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Again, very clean.
Yes, and
very well maintained.
The only work I did to it after I got it was I did a little paint correction. It had the paint had some swirls in it, and now you can see it's really perfect. And we did a tune-up on it. It's the dual Solex carburetors, which can be really tricky. But I've got a great guy who did a tune-up on it, and the car runs really nicely now.
So do you have a philosophy, Glenn, that when you find a car that you want it already restored, it looks like you don't want to be crawling underneath the car yourself working on it?
So I think what's worked for me is to buy really good cars, pretty good cars, not concourse level cars, but very nice cars, and then I try to take them up a notch. And that's worked for basically all the cars that we have.
Okay.
I haven't bought anything that really needed a ton of work, and I haven't bought anything really, other than the Mustang that I would say is pretty fully restored. Everything needed a little bit of work.
So everything that you've acquired, you're able to just immediately start enjoying, and then you can kind of do your own personal restoration on your own time.
Yeah, they're all good. They're all good driving cars. I haven't bought anything that didn't drive, and I had it fully mechanically and aesthetically.
And Glenn, so here, this is a 71 280 SL known as the Pagoda, correct?
Yeah.
And why did they call that the Pagoda?
I think you can see it more with the hardtop, and there is a hardtop for this, but the edges of the hardtop sort of slanted up like a Japanese pagoda might, and so that's how it got the name. But yeah, this was a great find. This was sitting locally at a gas station in the neighborhood. It did not look like this, and I had interest in it. Ended up striking a deal with the owner who had bought the car. He was a second or third owner who bought the car and never registered it. Bought it in the 70s, late 70s, and never registered it, and put very little mileage on it. But it needed some work, mechanical work, which has been done, and then we did full paint correction. I did some leather replacement and wood replacement on the dash, but it's a really nice car now.
Yeah.
And it's the last year of this model, which I kind of like to buy. I mean, the 89 is the last year of the 560. This is the last year of the 280, which I think gives it a little more value.
And this car looks like it would be real comfortable on the highway. I mean, if you wanted to drive it out east on the island.
Totally smooth ride.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a lot of pep. It is an automatic, but it's a really nice, smooth ride. And I'm not sure how many miles this one has.
So this is the kind of car you could just effortlessly drive and enjoy the company next to you, and put the top down, enjoy the wind and the sun.
Let the wind blow through your hair.
Yeah, there you go.
It took mine away.
That makes it easy maintenance when you take the top down.
That's right.
Yeah, again, it's a great color combination with the blue.
The engine is
straight six.
A lot of original stuff in here, and it has not been detailed or really restored, but it runs great.
Wow, look at all those cables and wires and lines. It's a busy place to be. So this is a 1994 Jaguar. It's a XJS, correct?
XJS is the 6-cylinder. Bought this from a original owner in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I just always liked this body style. They were not always regarded as the best running cars. People said they had electrical issues and other issues. I've had zero issues with this car, and it's a super smooth ride. If you mentioned taking a ride out to the Hamptons, that's a car you want to drive out to the Hamptons. It's just a really nice cruiser.
Is this an automatic in here then, Glenn?
That's an automatic. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, boy. All your cars, the interiors are just, they look brand new.
Thanks for mentioning that. But on this one, I did reupholster the seats.
Okay.
They were original leather. This is the same type of leather, but they started to show some cracking.
Okay.
And I just get a little neurotic with the car. So.
And it's got like a sports seat in it too, which
it's a really comfortable seat.
Yeah, it looks really comfortable and firm too. So it looks like if you do some hard cornering, You can.
And the suspension on this car is great, so you can do some hard cornering with it. And you know, it's deceiving because it doesn't look like a super sport car. It's really got some decent pep, and it really handles nicely. So up top, that's the first car. If you want to consider my collection, that's the first car I bought as a collection car. 1989 560 SL, the last year that they made that one. Bought it from the original owner out of Osage Beach, Missouri. And it's been an issue-free, wonderful car to drive since I've had it. I've had it in storage before I had this building. I had it in a storage room for months at a time, and I'd come in every now and then and turn the key and start right up. And you could drive it day one, and I've got a hard top for it, the original hard top. Interior is perfect. I had the seats redone on that one as well, though, because after a while the leather just dries out and it just starts to show its cracking and age. So, yeah.
Well, this has got sentimental value then, obviously, because it's your first car of your collection, right?
So, yeah, and on top of that, my youngest son has his eye on it, so that's going to go passed on.
So, how long ago did you start collecting? How did it get started? You just did too much to drink one night, or?
I have always loved cars, ever since I was a kid. Ever since my dad let me sit on his lap and drive his Hillman Minx.
Okay.
So I've just had a love of cars. I love the way they look, and so when I had the ability to pick up just an extra car that I could use, it was back in 2008. This was the first one that I bought, and then kind of every year I've been maybe adding one, changing out of them, but I've just always bought the cars that I admired and liked when I saw them on the road. The head turners, you drive down the road and you look twice, and like, that's a cool car. No, Lamborghinis and Ferraris didn't really do it for me. It was just more basic cars that I just thought were really sharply designed.
Yeah, well, this is a beautiful 560, and so this being the first in your collection, you didn't have this garage when you first started out, right? This is something fairly recent. So
a couple of years.
Where did you keep your cars prior to that?
So we had some at the house in the garage, and then locally there are storage places. I have storage rooms. I've had a garage in the city where I parked when I was commuting to work, and I'd keep a couple of cars there. So I kind of had them all over the place. Having this garage was a real money saver for me because I was paying for spots everywhere.
Well, it's beautiful in here. I mean, this is the kind of place where you could actually, you have all the amenities here, the bar and coffee maker, and you spend a lot of time here to kind of...
That's my wife, too. Molly, do I spend a lot of time here?
Yes.
This Mercedes here, when I look at it and I just look at all the chrome, all the detail, the wood, the leather, I mean, it's just a lot to take in.
Yeah, and I think that's chrome is one of the features that sort of has gone away from a lot of the new designs, and that's the thing. Maybe that's one of the things that I found attractive about the older cars, because the chrome just really sets the color off and makes you look at the car twice. This is a 1957. Mercedes 220S. I'm the second owner. I bought it from the original owner, who was in Boulder, Colorado. I can say he's the first and second owner, because he owned it, then sold it to a neighbor, and then bought it back from his neighbor.
Okay.
I bought it from him. But this car, if you look inside, it's like a living room. I mean, these are all original leather seats. They're kind of cracked, but I don't want to change them.
No, the patina's beautiful.
It's really cool.
And I love the wood. Is this walnut?
Yeah, it's all walnut. It's not restored. I cleaned it up a little bit, but that's basically how this car came. The only thing that I did on this car was the top.
Okay.
I redid this top because the old top was very stained. And getting the parts, one of the parts that was missing, just an interesting story, is this little piece of chrome trim on the front. The original bonnet didn't have this. And this was probably the last one on the planet. I found this from a restorer in Germany, and he sent it over. It was pitted. It was awful. I sent it out for rechroming, but I don't think if that breaks, I can't get another one.
That's a really nice touch. How did you find out about this? Just doing your research?
This car?
No, this chrome that goes here.
Well, I use a local restorer to do interior leather and tops, and when he was looking at restoring it, he said there needs to be something on the front of this to hold the canvas down. They had it stapled to the, this actually is a piece of wood in here, and they had it stapled to the wood underneath. He said there needs to be something, there should be something there. And so then I did a little research in the some of the Mercedes forums, and I found that that was actually the part.
And then we have a beautiful Formula Firebird here, and
Trans Am.
Yeah, Firebird Trans Am. So this is the Trans Am. Okay.
Yep. The bird will give it away.
Yeah.
There's a story behind this one. My late brother's first car was a 1975 Trans Am in Buccaneer red, which is this color. There's a picture of him above the door washing his car.
Oh yeah.
And I lost him a lot of years ago, but I've always thought that I wanted to get that car, his same car, as kind of like a tribute. And I've looked over the years for one, and the guys that bought Trans Am drove them real hard. So they were really very much not, the ones I found were not in very good shape.
Or heavily modified.
Or heavily modified with big after coolers sitting up on the hood. And
yeah.
This is a completely original car, comes out of Canada, and it's a 400. His was the bigger engine, and my brother's car had a white vinyl top. This is all red, but other than that, this is exactly the same car that he had, down to the honeycomb nads and the radial TAs. And it is a great running car. Everything on this car works. Even the trunk release, which it had a little button in the glove compartment to pop the trunk open, which was a cool little feature. And yeah, so when I drive this car, it just makes me connect. It makes me connect to my brother. In fact, driving down the road on Main Street here, I passed one of the shops, and you can see your reflection in the window.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's my brother. No, wait, that's my brother. So
oh, that's special. That's really cool.
Yep.
Well, this is the 400, so they also had a 455, but the 400 is plenty of power.
Plenty of power. Yep.
And I like the interior color too. I mean, that's a rare color. I have not seen that before. Typically it's the black or the white, or it's a really nice combination. How many owner car was this one, Glenn? Do you know?
I'm the second owner. Yeah, original owner was in Montreal, Canada. I've been trying to get in touch with him actually to get a little bit of the history. And it's an older guy, I haven't been able to reach him, but even had back in the day for car guys, when you had an audio system, you always wanted your Jensen triaxial speakers. I don't know if you remember those. And it has them, and it's got an 8-track player. And the 8-track player works, although I didn't have any 8-tracks, so I went on eBay and I bought a random rock and roll collection of 8-tracks just to make sure it works, and it does.
So you didn't save your 8-tracks growing up?
No, I didn't say it, but I think you could throw Pink Floyd in there now and it'll play.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I used to have an 8-track player, and I loved it. I remember turning a corner and all those 8-tracks, because I'd have them on the passenger seat, and they all just go flying to the other side of the car. Yeah. So I've owned a few Corvettes over the years, and I had a 73, which had the rubber nose, but the different back. So what year is this Corvette? This looks really nice.
This is an 82.
Okay.
And again, one of those cars that weren't regarded as one of the best models or versions of the Corvette, but I just think it's one of the best looking versions of the Corvette. So this was an aesthetic buy.
Okay.
I mean, it runs great. It's an automatic, and it's smooth, it's tight. You can't see because it's up on the list, but it's got those blue glass T-tops.
Oh yeah.
Which really sets it off, and I just always love this design. I just think it's a beautiful looking car, and I like the color.
Yeah, no, it looks really nice. And I know a lot of times it's hard to find a well-maintained Corvette because people modify them, they put the side pipes on them and customize them. This is kind of an anomaly when I look and I see Porsches and muscle cars and all sorts of fancy cars, and Here we have a Jeep Wagoneer. It's a beautiful design, a beautiful car. What made you want to go into a Wagoneer?
So my wife and I have always noticed these on the road. I guess it's the wood trim and the classic look of it, and it gives you kind of a warm feeling looking at this car. So we looked around for one. I looked around for one and ended up finding this again. Bought it from the original owner. It's a 1990 Grand Wagoneer. Bought it from a farm sheep herder out in Kanab, Utah, by the name of Sam Jackson. And so when we refer to this car, we say, "Are you taking Sam for a ride?" We call it Sam.
Okay.
He was the original owner. It had 165,000. I think it's got 170,000 miles on it now. It runs great. And the nice, kind of cool thing about it, it was Sam and his wife. They never had kids, and the back seats were never satin.
Oh, well, I had to take a look with it.
Since then, they have been by my kids and by our dogs, but it's still pretty good condition.
Yeah, I can attest. This looks really brand new.
It's the old corduroy style seats.
And it looks so comfy too.
Yeah, it's a nice car. So this
It's
one
got a lot of plush carpeting in this for a farm truck.
Yeah.
This is really plush.
So this one we'll probably hang on to just because it's the second one I bought after I had the '89 Mercedes. This was the second kind of collector car that I bought. Even though I don't know if we thought of it as a collector car at the time. We just thought it was a cool car to have. But we love it.
Well, and there's no rust on it that I could see, so it's clear Utah believes in sand or just a drier climate.
Well, what you find in this car is prairie dust. If you look around inside of the pockets and stuff, you'll find sort of an orange dust that you might think is rust, and it's not. It's the dust from the Utah prairie.
Oh, that's very cool. And it's big. You got a lot of storage in here, actually.
The seat folds up.
Yeah, it's in excellent condition. The dashboard's not cracked. How's this to drive on the highway? Pretty good.
Very good. Yeah, holds its line. It's not fast, but it's smooth.
Yeah. Well, everybody, like all great episodes, this one is coming to a close. And Glenn, we really appreciated your time and you and Molly opening up your garage and sharing your collection with us. It's just some fantastic cars, great stories behind each car. And I think you did a wonderful job of telling the story about each car. And that's kind of what our whole site is all about. So thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to add or comment on?
Thank you for being here, and thank you for displaying the collection.
Absolutely.
And I encourage anyone who wants to collect cars. It's a fun hobby, but try to drive them. Don't just keep them as garage queens. They're meant to be driven.
Yeah, and you do drive them a lot.
And I drive them all. Yep.
And you spend a lot of time in this garage too, which is great, right? So,
yeah, it's a bit of a hangout.
Like a home away from home.
We've got the bar, we've got the TV. So yeah, it's a fun
And your
place
wife
to hang.
enjoys driving with you. I see photos on the walls with you and your wife in the cars, and it's just great that they both enjoy them together. So it's just a wonderful story.
Thanks.
So thanks.
Thank you.